So we'll run through the names, and Jason, just a few minutes ago, I was going through the names, and it's not so much that outside of Theo Weiss, whom we talked about last week, guys that are uh, going to be losses from any type of huge production standpoint, but it's more just the volume and maybe the bigger narrative of what's going on with this program and where Brent Venables is headed, and also the missed opportunities, the guys that, as we merge this with recruiting and the recruiting cycle, and we'll be discussing the next few weeks as we head toward National Signing Day on December 21st. It's, that huge expectation of those players that signed just a year ago or 2 years ago that had all these shiny numbers next to their names in terms of their recruiting ratings and rankings and stars next to their names that never will fulfill that maybe at all, and certainly not at Oklahoma. And Clayton Smith is first and foremost in terms of the guys that come to mind that there was a lot expected, and certainly he could go on to have a great career, but it's not going to be at Oklahoma.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. He was one of the latest ones over the last couple of days. And he kind of had made his. It was kind of writing on the wall. Mark, he wasn't for the last couple of games. He wasn't on Oklahoma's roster online. So you take some. A lot of times you take some inferences from that. But yeah, he made his intentions known a couple of days ago, and a guy that came in with just tons and tons of hype for Oklahoma out of Texarkana, and just never was able to meet those expectations. Never really got on the field. Never really got into a situation where he was able to contribute or even break into that too deep. So not surprised. I think a lot of people thought that this would be a kid that would probably, there was a little bit of thought that could have happened last year, but was still happy with it, with the staff and the program and kind of the change in directions. And I don't think, from everything that I've heard, Mark, there's no disgruntlement whatsoever with him choosing to leave. Just wants to go somewhere where he can get an opportunity. The things that I've heard, just his inability to kind of put on weight and what he needs to, where he needs to be in Venable's system. But yeah, no, he's one that's probably a little bit. There's a couple of these kids, as we talked before. Oklahoma has, I think, somewhere around 15 to 16 kids that have either made their intentions known via social media or have officially entered the transfer portal. And I think Clayton Smith was one you touched, and we talked a little bit about this week. You touched on Theo Weiss as well. And then there's Nick Evers is another guy that, again, for some casual fans that may not have necessarily followed him a ton. He was a fairly highly recruited kid out of high school. You have here the number 9th ranked quarterback in the top 10 quarterback in the country last year. But just never was able to get on the field. Even situations against Texas, where we know Oklahoma was just in dire straits from a quarterback perspective with Davis Bevel just not really getting it done, and he wasn't able to to kind of get on the field. And these kids, Mark, these big 4 or 5-star kids, if they don't get on the field year one, they're looking around, and just the mentality has changed. However you feel about it, one way or the other, doesn't negate the fact that the mentality has changed from a lot of these kids. They're not willing to wait more than, and some more than a year, some more than a couple of years, and certainly with Nick, certainly bringing in Jackson Arnold and kind of what he's the hype he has coming in and where he's rated and what that looks like, and then potentially Dylan Gabriel still possibly coming back has played into that a little bit as well, but not extremely surprised. And so this is a with the transfer portal, these are new terms, right? But there's kind of a term that's kind of catching on across the country, and no different at OU, which is called processing. And really Oklahoma's been through with it, with the exception of a few of these kids going through the processing timeline, life cycle, however you want to put it, and where just very blunt, I think, conversations have to happen, at some point, if the head coach and position coach feel like this is an individual that's not necessarily good enough um, to be, from a talent wise, be at Oklahoma, then they're you know, essentially, like, not pushing them out the door, but suggesting, that they that they look elsewhere. And so, like I said, I mean, it's very evident with the number of kids that have hit the portal in day one, and then obviously it's continued over the next few days, the next couple of days here. Initially within this portal, but it's going to be crazy just the number of and for me, Mark, I think the number of kids that are, and I'm just if you just look at the quarterback position, the number of kids that were starters either the full season or partially this season for FBS programs that are, electing to go into the portal. Now, some of them you can kind of understand with coaching changes and things like that, maybe going a little bit different direction offensively based on where they were recruited to and things like that. But some are very interesting, to say the least, on what's in the portal. And the just generally speaking, then we can obviously move on. But I think traditionally rebuilds take 2, 3, 4 years, but now with the transfer portal, I mean, look at what Dion's going to be able to do at Colorado. They're gonna. I would be surprised if they don't build a bowl team out of what was one of the worst teams in Power Five, maybe the worst Power Five team in the country this year. And so you can get a lot better and from one year to the next. And I think that's what this Oklahoma team is probably banking on, is the ability to, through recruiting in the transfer portal, to get significantly better from a talent perspective than where they were this year.